John, thank you. So where is Oakley Carlson? I mean, that is the question so many of us have been asking now for more than 2 years after that 5-year-old girl disappeared from her biological parents' home, seemingly without a trace. But now a new disturbing theory is coming to light. And investigators now discussing the possibility that Oakley's biological mother may have sold her to fuel a gambling addiction. All right, so those who fell victim to her other crimes say they wouldn't be surprised. Fox 13's Matthew Smith explains.
She's just a bully. She really is a bully.
Tracy McGee Mills is one of several victims in the latest case to land Jordan Bowers behind bars. Identity theft and fraud.
It just makes me think, you know, how did I let her in?
Prosecutors say that Bowers swindled tens of thousands of dollars in COVID funds from people she befriended back in 2021. Using accounts and credit cards set up in her victims' names, investigators say she made multiple illegal withdrawals at the Little Creek Casino. There, she was something of a regular, scoring this $2,000 jackpot and throwing around even larger sums of cash, according to witness statements. But McGee Mills now thinks that it was all a front.
She's an actress. She totally plays the part.
She thinks Bowers was using the stolen funds to fuel a gambling addiction.
She was so far in gambling, you don't even know, you guys. I mean, she lived for it.
If the money ran out, McGee Mills suspects that Bowers could have done the unthinkable.
She might have sold her daughter off, is what I think.
There was a belief amongst people that she sold Oakley. And I know there's been tips to that as well, because some actually directed through our newsroom. So.
Sure.
Bowers has not been charged with child trafficking or any crime connected to Oakley's disappearance. But the gambling debt theory could connect with the other crimes she's accused of, talking about identity theft and fraud.
So now, beyond what those who knew Jordan Bowers are saying, Matthew had a chance to talk with the lead investigators on the case about that theory.
Yeah, he's joining us now from home. Matthew, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Well, you bet. So investigators say that this was a theory from day one. So kind of walk our viewers through why we are learning more about this now.
So it really has to do with this identity theft case that has Jordan Bowers behind bars right now. Remember, she was released for all of a day and then rearrested on these separate charges. Because they had to make a lot of the court documents public in that separate case, we were able to understand some of the people that Jordan was hanging out with around this time, and we were able to go and talk to them. It's important to note that this has always been a theory. Murmurs have gone around Grays Harbor County. People have thought this, but we don't just report on speculation. The difference is at this point in time, we know that there was at least one tip that came through our newsroom and was followed up by investigators. Then when we met Tracy, she explained why she believed this, and other people in her life believed it as well. So we were able to ask investigators point blank. It's important to note this is just one theory. They are looking at everything, and really their job is to disprove all the theories before they eventually bring charges, if they do so. So this is a theory. It doesn't mean it's what happened, but it's certainly something that they, at the very least, looked into. They haven't been able to prove it yet, obviously.
You know, Matt, when Oakley disappeared, the pandemic quarantine was also still in full swing. Do you think investigators are looking at the fact that that could have made it easier for something like this to have happened under the radar?
Yeah, certainly. Chief Johns, who you heard just a little snippet with when he talked with me in that story you just heard, and the full version, by the way, is posted on our website. Chief Johns talked a little bit about that. You have to really take yourself back 2 years ago, because remember, we didn't learn that Oakley was missing until several months after she was last seen. We learned in late December of 2021. So you have to go further back from February to December. Why was there this gap? Well, think about how many fewer kids were going to school, how everybody was limiting their interactions. There were less checks and balances on society, if you will. So it was much easier for something like this to happen under the radar. And because of that, investigators had to work extra hard to figure out why it had been so long that nobody could report seeing her.
Investigators have dedicated a lot of time trying to form a timeline of events for the investigation. So what is so different about this case that's making it harder?
That's a good question, Bill. And I think part of that is just the fact that you have parents that aren't responding, aren't interacting with investigators, aren't cooperating. You also have to remember that while they are the prime suspects, there's a lot of other people that, because like we just mentioned, weren't involved in their life at this point because the pandemic is in full swing. investigators literally had to go back and look at surveillance video, try to track when Oakley could have been spotted. They've used everything from digital leads to just traditional man on the street, pounding the pavement, talking to everybody, relatives, friends, trying to figure this out. When you can't put together a timeline because of when this happened, it becomes more and more difficult. They've had help from Mason County, Thurston County, Tumwater PD, FBI, and beyond that, from my understanding. A lot of that really made it feel like they were starting very far behind on this because you didn't have a family that had a typical lifestyle. You can't say they woke up at this time and they deviated from this. No, they lived a sporadic life. Don't forget, the parents actually were charged because of child endangerment, exposing the other children to meth. That gives you an idea how chaotic their lifestyle was. So it's hard to pinpoint when their lives changed.
Matt, you've been following this case really closely. What has surprised you so far while covering this case?
Honestly, I would say the lack of information that we have on the case at this point in time. Our viewers who followed along with us for roughly a year and a half that we've been reporting this, because remember, we say 2 years, but we didn't know again until later on that Oakley was actually missing. But if you've been watching Fox 13, you know we've talked to Jamie Jo Hiles, the foster mother who took care of Oakley. She called Jamie and Eric, the Hiles, mom and dad. She spent 3 years of her life with them. They have been trying to get information for so long, but because of the legalities of the situation, you have biological parents versus foster parents. A lot of information never came out. One of the biggest things that we've been asking since day one is who would have been in charge of seeing or checking in on Oakley, because she wasn't with this family or back with her family for very long. So, I mean, I'm a former foster parent myself. My first question was, where were the social workers in this? We still don't know. In fact, David Rose has gone all the way up to the head of DCYF and was stonewalled, asked him a lot of questions about this, but they're hiding behind a lot of paperwork and laws at this point in time.
Matthew Smith, we appreciate your time and all of your hard work, and thanks for joining us. And by the way, if you're interested in seeing Matthew's full report, you can find it on our website, fox13seattle.com.